It's not that I don't like taking out the garbage. It's just that I don't like taking out the garbage. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you guys so much for joining me. If you are here, you've probably looked at the thumbnail and you are ready for a tap. Hold on 1 second before you go ahead and do that. And listen, take a deep breath and just listen, okay? Because it's not what you think. So, today we're going to be talking about I said today, didn't I? Today we're going to be talking about gender roles and switching gender roles within your relationship. What does it mean exactly to have these things and why is it so important? I use the analogy of the janitor and the CEO, and maybe that was not a really good analogy. There, there are certain things that people in relationships do better than their partners. And I think appreciating and acknowledging those things on a regular basis is the bread and butter of having successful relationships. I know this because it's a huge conversation all the time in my household. Appreciating, celebrating, and having that sense of acknowledgement of a person's qualities. One of those qualities is the fact that you know, my husband loves to drive and I hate to drive. He drives us everywhere. And I like it like that because I just dread the day when I'll have to get my license and drive myself places, which will probably be sooner than later. But that's just one example. Look at some of the things that you are tasked with in your relationship that might be um, unspoken expectations. And that is, of course, the real issue here. Expectations, and unspoken expectations are some of the things that helps the breakdown of every relationship, any kind, ever. And here's why. When you have when you have an unspoken expectation of your partner, maybe you started to um, depend on or rely on the fact that they do a particular thing that they've always done, and all of a sudden they've stopped doing it. Now that they've stopped doing it, you find yourself asking yourself, self, why has this person stopped doing this particular thing? I feel really bad. Maybe if you're lucky, it hasn't gotten to a really bad point where you're now having resentment or that person is having resentment and that's why they have stopped doing this particular thing, that you can actually talk about it and say, hey, I noticed that you no longer do X or Y or Z. Why is that? Well, honey, you should ask. And maybe they might just word vomit all over you because they've been holding back a sense of unappreciation for such a very long time. Or maybe they're really mature and level headed about it and decided that, well, it didn't seem to make much of a difference. You hadn't really said thank you or shown any appreciation or any kind of, you know, noticing that this is something that you care about. So I just stopped doing it. So it's really important in the beginning of your relating with your friends, again, wife, spouse, whoever, that if you want that behavior to continue, to really vocalize a sense of appreciation for the continuance of said behavior. That's super important. People love to be celebrated, they love to be acknowledged, they like to have a sense of importance in your life, and they tend to feel really, really encouraged when you acknowledge what they do for you. And if you want to see more of that kind of behavior, it makes perfect sense to be happy, to show your happiness for their treating you a certain kind of way or doing a particular thing for you. And the second thing is to not be so regimented in gender roles. I know I said in my last video that this was something that is super important, that it's clearly defined, but it's not always realistic and practical. This is why women have gone to school. Shockingly enough, I know a lot of people don't believe or even think that I believe in the education of women, but yes, I do, because it is one of the things that saved my mother when my stepdad died suddenly. She has a double major master's and one bachelor's degree, and she was able to go back to work and provide for her 5 children because she's an educated woman. Now, that's a very dramatic situation to be in, and a lot of us are not in that situation. But I feel like sometimes when you switch up gender roles, you tend to get a greater sense of appreciation of what your partner brings to the table by putting yourself directly, physically in their shoes. You get to see firsthand what it is they experience and go through on a daily basis to be who they are in the relationship. And that is very, very important for your strengthening of the bond of the two of you, especially with friends. It would be really cool if you could pick up or take an interest in some of the things that your friends may like that you might not necessarily have a great interest in, because it helps you to understand the type of people that they are and why they are the way they are. I find my friends to be fascinating and I learn so much about them when I go along with them or experience some of the things that are of interest to them and not always have to make it a hard line. We are only going to do what we all like to do. It also brings you closer together to the people that you work with when you get to see their part and experience them through their eyes. Um, this is a way of nonverbal communication that shows the people around you that you care. And this is something that you can only do, well, not it's not the only way, but it's a very, very special way to show a person how much you appreciate them, how much you understand them. And actually, it helps to bring you and that person or those people closer together. So switching up gender roles, of course, is a very interesting part of that. I wouldn't say that I would not ever take the garbage out. I mean, of course I would once in a while. Like I'm not always gonna just leave the garbage standing there and wait for people to come home to take it out if I need it done immediately. I'm not a helpless invalid. um, I do know how to work, and I was a strong, independent woman who had a job and a career. And I am no longer, those things are no longer the focal point of my life. But I have a deep appreciation and respect for somebody who has to go out and do those things. And so if I were to have to do that again, if my relationship would require that, then that would definitely be something that I would give wholeheartedly 100%. But I have an appreciation of that already because I did have a job that I had to go to in order to sustain myself and my family. So, switching up gender roles is not um going to be the death of you because you are such a person that has to be this person all the time. As a matter of fact, it can help you to broaden your horizons as to how you define yourself as a person in your relationship. However, boundaries are there for a reason. They help us to understand and make sense of the world, and they give us a sense of security in who we are and what we want out of life. So be open to it. Do it just so you can know that it's not for you, if nothing else. And at the best, let it be an opportunity to really step into your partner's shoes or step into your friends, the people around your shoes, so that you can have greater appreciation and a healthy understanding of what it is they experience. So, if and when you can, stay safe and stay free.